What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be getting into my full NBA 2023-2024 season predictions. So let's get into it here. Starting out with the Western Conference, let's look at each team's record. I did this on a website called NBA Playoff Predictors. It's a pretty good website for things like this. It's just a little bit slow at times, so that's why I put that in this Google Sheets document so it won't be so slow during the video. But the number one seed is going to be the Denver Nuggets again this year, I think. At a 56-24 record, the Nuggets are a very good team. It's going to be tough for them to not get the one seed, especially with the regular season play. Then the two's the Suns. It was very close throughout the season. You know, the Suns have a lot of offensive firepower this year. They're going to be a good team. They're going to be 54-26. Number three, we had the Kings at 51-29. The three seed again this season for them. The four seed's going to be the Grizzlies. John Morant's out for like the first 25 games, but I do think with them coming back, this team is very good in the regular season with Ja. So they're going to round out being the four seed at 49-31, barely beating out the five seeded Warriors at 48-32, and then the Clippers at 48-32. Both those teams tying up. The Warriors own the tiebreaker this season, so the Warriors just barely get that. Number 7, we have the Mavericks at 42-38, making the play-in tournament this season. I don't think this Mavericks team, I just don't really trust them in the regular season, with how that last year ended up. 8 seeded, we have the Timberwolves at 41-39. 9 seed, the Jazz at 40-40. 10 seed, the Thunder at 40-40. And that leaves a good 11 seeded Pelicans team out of the playoffs at 39-41. I just don't trust Zion is going to be there all season. And I just don't trust the talent without Zion on this team. I think this team's going to have a late season collapse and are going to fall out of the play-in tournament. And then another disappointing year for the 12-seeded Lakers, with LeBron James finishing at 38-42 and missing out of the play-in. 13, we have the Trailblazers, 32-48. Obviously trading away. Damian Lillard's not going to help, but I think that they have a decent roster. Getting Drew Holiday, some other pieces there. They can be a good team. Then 14, the Spurs, 30-50. I think this team's going to start out slow, but with Wembanyama kind of getting used to the NBA, if he's made out to be what he's made out to be, the Spurs team should build upon in the end of the year and wind up being 30-50. And then 15, we have the Rockets at 16-64. The Rockets, I think, are going to have the worst record in the league. So that's the West there. We'll get to the playoff predictions in a minute. But then the East, number one seeded is going to be the Bucks, I think, with the best record in the NBA at 60-20. Adding Dame, that team's going to be ferocious. They were already, I believe they had a better record than the Nuggets last season. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Bucks, I think, are going to be the best team in the league record-wise through the season. And then, by the way, I forgot to mention this, but I'm not going to be doing the in-season tournament thing isn't counting in this because I really don't know how that's going to work out. So, that's not going to be counting in these predictions. And then let me change that real quick. Okay, but then number 2, we have the Celtics, 55-25. Boston's always a really good team. I don't expect this year to be any different. They're going to be the 2 seed. 3 seed, we have Cleveland, 49-31, just barely beating out the 4-seeded 76ers at 48-32. I honestly see some regression and some progression from Cleveland, some regression from the Sixers, the Sixers have been a letdown each year, it seems like, when it comes to the playoffs. I think their regular season input's going to kind of follow that this season, and they're going to wound up being the 4 seed. In the 5 seed, we have the Heat. This Heat team's not a regular season team. Don't get me wrong, it's a very good team with Jimmy Butler, but it's just not a regular season team, so that's why I think that they're going to be a 5 seed. Just look at last year, they were like the 8 seed or whatever. And then we have the 6-seeded Knicks at 44-36. Knicks are always a good team in the NBA. The past few years. So the Knicks gonna be there. They have a solid roster, gonna make it past the plan. Number 7, we have the Pacers at 40-40 there. Pacers, I think, are going to take a big step this year. I really like this Pacers roster. And then 8-seeded Magic. This is going to be one of my surprise teams. Magic were kind of turning some things on last year. I kind of like the Magic and what their roster talent with some of these young pieces. I think that they can be a solid team this year, and they're going to wound up being 38-42 as the 8 seed. The 9 seed is going to be the Hawks, kind of a late season collapse here for the Hawks to fall into the 9 seed at 37-43. This Hawks team is really just Trae Young and Murray, and that's about it. So I don't really trust that team at all. 10 seed, we have the Nets at 36-44. It's really not. The Nets probably don't deserve to be in the 10 seed. You look at probably the Pelicans and the Lakers would deserve it if they were in the East, but the Nets get it. They still have some pieces on that team, so I think that they can win some games and be the 10 seed. 11 seed, we have the Bulls at 33-47. I just don't trust this Bulls team anymore. They just haven't found a way to put things together, and they're going to be the 12 seed, or the 11 seed, sorry. 12 seed, the Raptors, 28-52. It's tank season for the Raptors. This team is just not good, especially firing their coach. I mean, they have Siakam still. They have some pieces, but the Raptors are going to wound up not being a great team. And then the Wizards at 13, trading away Bradley Beal doesn't help. This Washington's team does have like Chris Paul and I think Russell Westbrook, but that's not going to do enough. This team is not good in general around them. This year is obviously a rebuild year for the Wizards at 13. 14, we have the Pistons finishing 21-59. Still don't trust that team. And then 15, the Hornets, 20-60. LaMelo Ball, not going to do enough for that team this year. All right, so now let's get into playoff predictions here. Starting out with the play-in tournament, let's start out with the 9-seeded Jazz against the 10-seeded Thunder here. Two good teams here. I really like these roster talent with the Jazz and the Thunder. It's going to be a close game. This one is being played in Utah. Both these teams in the East probably deserve to make the playoffs. But I'm going to go with the Jazz at home here. I just think this roster is going to take a step up. The Thunder, really good team with Shea, a team that's coming up here. But so are the Jazz. Lauri Markkanen's a really good player. They got a lot of picks in the draft, picked up a lot of good pieces there. Jordan Clarkson's on this team. This Jazz team's good, and it's being played in Utah, very hostile environment for the Thunder. So I'm going to go with Utah in that game. But that one's going to be, if that one is going to be played in the play-in, I'm excited for those two because those two are some really good up-and-coming teams right now. But the Jazz, I think, just barely get it over OKC. All right, and then we got the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. The winner of this game will play the Suns. Loser will play the Jazz in the play-in. And honestly, I'm going to go with the 8-seeded Timberwolves in this game to pull off the upset. I just don't trust this Mavericks team. Besides Luka and Kyrie, they're not great in general. This team is all offense, no defense. The Timberwolves got Rudy. I think he's going to have a lot better of a season. Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and a lot of a better bench. So I really trust the Timberwolves' overall roster talent over more than I do the Mavericks. I'm just not trusting this Mavericks team in general. So they're going to fall to the Timberwolves in the 8th seed. And then that'll put the Mavericks versus the Jazz for a spot to play the Nuggets. No one wants to play the Nuggets in the first round, but one of these two is going to. I'm going to go with the Jazz. Another upset. Mavericks going to be a letdown this year, I think. Luka Doncic is not enough to carry this team in a win-or-go-home game. Jazz, I think, are going to come up with a better game plan. I think they're a better coach team. I think they have a better overall roster. Mavericks have two great players, but that's not going to be enough. And I think the Jazz are going to pull off this win. over the Mavericks. And the Mavericks, very frustrating season if this is what's going to happen. I'm going to predict it. Utah wins it. They go on to play the Nuggets in the first round. Let's go to the Eastern Conference here. Hawks, Nets. I'm going to go with the Hawks here. I just don't trust the Nets in general. They don't really have a star player, unlike some of the other teams we've talked about. The Hawks do with Trae Young, and Murray. Unlike the Jazz and like the Thunder, I think probably would pick them over the Hawks. But the Nets really just their roster talent's decent, but it's not good. I think the Thunder and the Jazz are good, and the Nets are gonna struggle to contain Murray and Young in this game. So I'm gonna go with the Hawks to win that one. And then moving on, we have the Pacers and the Magic. Pacers at home. Give me them in the play-in game. Pacers are a very up-and-coming team. They've got a lot of good young pieces on this team from the drafts that they've made. Halberton obviously comes to mind. He's a great young piece for them. So this Pacers team is solid. I really do like the Magic talent, but I think they're not as talented, and that's going to be tough on the road. So I am going to give that one to the Pacers. So then that wounds out being a Magic and Hawks matchup. Two good teams here. This is tough, but I'm going to give it to the I think I'm going to give it to Trae Young and the Hawks, advantage-wise. Magic just don't have that playoff experience in them. They don't really have many veterans. It's going to be tough. I know it's being played in Orlando, but I just think Trae Young is going to, and this Hawks team, who is experienced in the playoffs, can get the win and are going to upset the Magic. So the Hawks move on to play the Bucks. Magic's magical season is going to come to an end, but this team's future is very bright. Okay, in the West, we got the Nuggets, we got the Jazz in the series. Now we're getting into series. I'm going to go with the Nuggets in this one. This one I think will probably be 4-0, a sweep. But I'm going to actually say the Jazz cut this to 4-1 in this series. This Jazz team has talent. It's a rivalry game. These two know each other very well. Lauri Markkanen, I think, can get a win, maybe like Game 3 or Game 4 in Utah. But the Nuggets are the better team. We all know how good Jokic and this Nuggets team is. They're going to move on past the Jazz. Grizzlies, Warriors, the 4 seed versus the 5 seed. Excited for this series. This is going to be a good one. Ja Morant takes on Stephen Curry. Can the Grizzlies finally get it? If the Grizzlies are a healthy team, which they could very much not be at this point on in the season, it's going to be tough. This is going to be a really good series, but I'm going to give it to the Grizzlies. I just think the Warriors are going to have a setback year. This team is obviously very good, but the Grizzlies, they're more of a rising team right now with Ja Morant and this roster talent. Marcus Smart coming in, I think it's going to be big for them too. I trust this Grizzlies team overall here, and I think they can get the win to move on past the Warriors in a 6-game series, potential 7-game series, but I do trust the Grizzlies there. All right, now we got the 2-seeded Suns against the 8-seeded Timberwolves. Honestly, the Suns might be a team prone to an upset. I'm gonna give the Wolves a 6-game series here, but Kevin Durant and the Suns are gonna get the better of them. This offense probably is the best in the league talent-wise. It's just going to be hard to stop. Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. That's going to be very difficult to stop on the offensive end. Now, the defensive end concerns me, but I think the Suns can get it. Okay, moving on. Kings, Clippers. Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers trying to get this win. This team, I think, is going to be healthy and off healthy all year, as they always are. I just don't trust the Clippers. If they're healthy, I could see them winning this game. But I think the Kings are going to build off a tough loss last season to the Warriors. I'm going to give it to the Kings. I'm going to give it to the rising team against kind of the digressing team that I don't trust. I really like De'Aaron Fox and this Kings' overall talent. Sabonis as well it's a good Kings team, and I think that they can get the win to move on to play the Suns in the next round. All right, in the Eastern Conference, we got Bucks, we got the Hawks. This one I think is going to be a sweep. The Bucks are the best team in the league. The Hawks aren't a great team. I don't really need to dive too much into that one. The Bucks, I think, will dominate. Damian Lillard and Giannis are going to be too much for the Hawks in that one. 76ers Heat, the 4-seeded versus the 5-seed. I'm going to give another frustrating ending to a season to the Sixers. I'm going to give this one to the Heat. I'm going to give it in a 6-game series. I just don't trust the Sixers. Honestly, Jimmy Butler, I don't trust. I don't trust James Harden. It's Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid hasn't been great in the playoffs either, in his career. He's a very good player, but I just trust Jimmy Butler and this Heat team. The way that they've been playing in the playoffs the past few years, this Heat team is going to move on to play the Bucks in the next round. All right, Celtics, Pacers, 2-seed versus 7-seed. Give me the Celtics. Pacers are a rising team, so maybe they can get one in this series. I don't think so. I think this is another sweep, though, honestly. I like this Pacers roster talent, but against the Celtics, this team's just too good. Very good year for the Pacers, though. If you're a Pacers fan, you should be proud of this season. But it's going to come to an end with you running into a dominant Celtics team. All right, Cavaliers, Knicks. Tough series here. Rematch of last year's series between these two. These two are trying to get their revenge. Or the Cavs are trying to get their revenge. And I think they can. I'm going to give this one to Cleveland. But I think this is going to be a Game 7 series. The Knicks play the Cavs tough. This Knicks roster's pretty solid. It's going to be close. And it's going to be a good series. But I think that the Cavaliers can get it. And they're going to win that one to move on 4-3 in the series. Okay. Western Conference or semifinals now. Nuggets, Grizzlies. Grizzlies just aren't going to have enough in this series. I'm going to give this one to the Nuggets. The Grizzlies are a good team. Don't get me wrong. But, with all the uncertainty with Ja Morant this season, I just can't give the Grizzlies that far of a run. I think this is going to be a series in 5 here, honestly. The Grizzlies are just going to run into too good of a team here in the Nuggets, and it's going to be tough to win that one. I'm going to give the Grizzlies a little bit more credit, give that one in a 6-game series, but yeah, I just don't see that the Grizzlies are going to win that one. And then the Suns and the Kings, great series here. I would be very hyped up to see this series play out. I am going to give it to the explosive Suns, though. But I think that the Kings can give the Suns some trouble here in a 7-game series, almost win it for De'Aaron Fox and this Kings team. I really like this Kings team. And I could see this team going on a run this season, but I just don't see it happening against the Suns with KD, Devin Booker. This Suns team's explosive. They're going to mesh to this season. They're going to figure things out, and this team's going to move on past the Kings. And then Bucks Heat, a rematch of last season. Give me Milwaukee. Give me Milwaukee in a revenge game. The Bucks have reloaded. The Heat went on the finals run. This might be, a big game. This is going to be a big series. I'm going to give the Bucks this one in 6. I just trust this Bucks talent a little bit more. Damian Lillard is going to be a big addition to this offense. Giannis is going to dominate. I just don't think the Heat are going to be able to keep up in this series. Give me the 1-seeded Bucks. And then Celtics, Cavaliers. I'm having an upset here, guys. The Cavaliers are coming off a tough series against the Knicks. I think they win that one. I'm going to give it to Donovan Mitchell and the Cavaliers. I think this team's going to break out this season. It's going to click at this point in the playoffs and are going to win this series in 7 against the Celtics. I think that the Celtics might go up 2-0 or something in this series, but then or 1-0 or something, but then kind of struggle. It's hard to pick against the Celtics, but honestly, guys, I believe in Donovan Mitchell and this Cavaliers team. I think they figured out some of those offensive concerns last year, and the defense continues to be very solid. I'm I'm going to go with the 3-seeded Cavaliers in another frustrating loss for the Celtics. Okay. Now we have conference finals time. Nuggets, Suns. Give me Phoenix. Revenge series from last year. The Suns beat the Nuggets with that offensive firepower. Jokic and the Nuggets, I don't think are going to repeat this season. It's a very good team, but give me this one in 7, and the Suns win that one to move on to the finals. But a very good matchup. And then Bucks, Cavs. We're going to have a rematch here. The Cavs just beat the Celtics. That series is probably going to take some out of them. 6-7 or 6-5. I'm going to do this one in... I just think the Cavaliers... I'm going to give this one in 6 because the Cavaliers, I believe in this team with Donovan Mitchell. They can do some stuff in this series, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. The Bucks are going to move on. That offensive firepower, the Cavaliers just aren't going to be able to keep scoring. Very similar to the Heat there. I'm going to give that one to the Bucks. Okay, who's my NBA champion? We have the Suns. We have the Bucks. And a rematch of that finals. I'm going to go Bucks. Damian Lillard brings the Bucks back to the championship, and Kevin Durant and the Suns are going to come up short again in the finals. The Bucks win it. This one will probably be in 7. I think the Bucks are finally going to get one in 7 there. All right, guys. Those are my NBA season predictions video. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the content. Comment down below your predictions. Anyway, guys, peace out.